Now it's time to take a look at what's going on in the French papers. Diptyque Laurent is here in the studio to talk us through them. And Diptyque, all the French press seem to be talking about it. François Hollande is set to appear in a new political show.
That's right. He's making an appearance as a special guest in this new political show that's called Citizen Dialogue, or Dialogue Citoyen, if you like. It's appearing on the public channel France 2. Now, for the left-leaning paper Le Figaro, it's an operation of survival, during which he'll have an hour and a half to address various issues affecting the country, from the economy to national security.
OK, and it also seems that Le Parisien has got rather a damning opinion poll on the president. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
76% of French people surveyed in this opinion poll from Le Parisien, as you mentioned, do not want François Hollande to run for presidency next year in 2017. That's 3 out of 4 French people. The headline there says, Lui président, les Français n'y croient plus. Him president, the French don't believe it anymore. And that, of course, is a reference to moi président, something we heard a lot from François Hollande when he was making those electoral promises 4 years ago.
Of course. Now, this rather pessimistic view is also shared by L'Opinion, which, of course, being a right-wing paper is hardly surprising, is it?
No, not very surprising, Belle. The headline really sums it. The president drives them crazy. And when they say that, they're referring to his inner circle, his closest allies. When Hollande's term ends next year, even his closest allies will feel bitterness, resentment, frustration, a loss of common sense. Very harsh words from L'Opinion there. And even Hollande's supposed protégé, Emmanuel Macron, the economy minister, is quoted as saying, Hollande is very difficult to work with and is exhausting. Now, that sense of fatigue is really shared in this cartoon you see here. These 3 men representing Hollande's closest allies, and this cartoon from Keck sees them approaching a tattoo artist, asking for that tattoo of Hollande to be removed, that supposed badge of honor 4 years ago that they want nothing to do with anymore.
Now, even the show that you've mentioned earlier, that Citizen Dialogue that Hollande is appearing in, even that has managed to draw criticism, right?
A criticism from Libération, the left-leaning paper this morning. On its front page, it says, Télévision sous l'influence, under the influence of what or whom? Well, that's a question. They're wondering if France 2, which is a public channel, is really complicit with the government, at least in terms of this political show. After all, the program is broadcast, that's going to be broadcast this evening, seems to be very much in touch with the Élysée. At least it seems to be carefully prepared in terms of what the president wants to discuss, or more importantly, what issues he will not be discussing.
OK, and moving on to something else, Unicef has released a damning report that's in L'Humanité, one of the French papers here, a communist paper. It's all about children, poor children. Can you tell us a bit more?
It's a report from Unicef. France is pinned by Unicef. That's what L'Humanité says on its front page. Basically, this Unicef report looks at the situation of underprivileged children in 35 countries, 35 OECD and EU countries. France is classed 28 out of those 35 countries. So it's a very, and that's actually, it's actually regressed since the last report, which really indicates that there are increasing inequalities in Western countries. And this is having a very strong effect on children in particular. L'Humanité wonders if this ranking is just an overdue reaction to the financial crisis in 2008, or is it indeed because of a political program from the government that doesn't do enough for underprivileged families and children. Now, the UNICEF report looks at 4 areas: health, education, finance, and life satisfaction, and France ranks very lowly on all of them.
Well, thank you very much. Diptyque Laurent there with the French Press Review. I'll be back in just a minute with more news. Do stay with us.